Welcome to the CL Brown Show. I am your host, CL Brown, columnist with the Louisville Courier-Journal. On this episode of the show, I will be joined by CBS Sports' Chip Patterson, who is the host of the Cover 3 podcast, where they talk everything college football. It's a great podcast. I suggest that you check it out if you have not listened before. And so we're going to skip CL Sounds Off this week and jump right into this interview where we're going to talk Louisville, we're going to talk the Cats, we're going to talk Mark Stoops and everything surrounding the season opener and the season outlook. Now, I'd like to welcome back to the podcast, friend of the show, host of the Cover 3 podcast, and also a superb writer, prognosticator. I'm trying to think of how many titles I can give you because I look at your bets every week, your predictions on lines and spreads as well. But this is Mr. Chip Patterson with CBS Sports. Chip, thank you for joining me.
Was I on episode one? Episode one or episode two? I was definitely,
Yeah, it
I was
was,
definitely early
yes.
on. But hey, listen, now we've got this is like an annual get together. I love being able to chop it up with you anytime, on your show or elsewhere. So it's good to see you.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Definitely a annual August event for the CL Brown podcast. Well, let's jump right into the University of Louisville and their expectations this year. I saw you pick them fifth in the ACC. What, from your perspective, what do you feel like this team is capable of?
Well, I mean, they're capable of making it back to Charlotte, right? Because they make us for those expert picks list them, in the ACC 1 through 17. But, if you were to ask me how I see it, there's a lot more flattening there, right? Like, I think that there are probably 8 teams behind Louisville that are all flattened into the same area, like anywhere that's where a North Carolina, that's where a Duke, that's where a Virginia Tech, that's where I think that any one of them could end up at the top of that heap, but I don't think any of them have the roster right now, just roster talent that the Louisville Cardinals do, that SMU does, that Miami does. And then at the top of that, which I think is even separated from everybody else, is Clemson. So is Louisville capable of making it to Charlotte for the second time in 3 years under Jeff Brohm? Yeah, absolutely. You'll probably need to win some tough games. And last year, man, they weren't out of any games, right? I
Yeah.
mean, obviously, you. I've used this phrase on the Cover 3 podcast, but it is because it was so impactful. I've been working for CBS since 2010, CL. I haven't seen the fans hitting the exits in Death Valley before the start of the fourth quarter many times, right? And,
Yeah.
and even the final score wasn't even as close as it was. I mean, they just kicked their tails up and down the place. And you got Clemson on the schedule again this year, so you might need that to be another pivotal game again. So I look at the Cardinals and I definitely think the ability to be in the ACC championship game is there. I just think that even seeing what I saw last season, I just don't think from a prediction standpoint, I'm ready to say that they would get the best of Clemson in Charlotte if they played at the end of the year. Dabo in the ACC championship game when it's been in Charlotte is undefeated, and they've been there a lot. So it's
Yeah.
just that's a little bit of a lazy prediction, but certainly one where history's on my side. The thing that I'm excited in terms about like what they can accomplish is being able to just continue to take a step forward with some of the pieces that they've got back. Like you've got the youth of another year of Isaac Brown, but then you've got so many of those other transfers that have stuck around. And a lot of times we look at Jeff Brohm and we talk about his use of the transfer portal and bringing in, 15 to 25 guys each of these off seasons, but they're not all rentals, right?
Yeah.
Like you've got a lot of these players that, yeah, they joined from the portal, but then they've been around for a couple of years. Like are they really still a portal guy in that sense? Like, no, they are a program guy. You've got some key pieces you're losing on the defensive side that you're obviously concerned about, but I'm a big Miller Moss fan. And so I think they got better at quarterback. I think that they have a chance to have one of the best running backs in the ACC. And from that, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, Miller Moss that's a good segue into him. I wanted to ask just flat out, are you a believer in Miller
Yeah,
Moss because of his struggles at the end of the year last year with USC? I kind of felt like it was a Lincoln Riley USC thing. I thought they kind of put him in some bad positions last year, but I will let you take it from there. You believe in what Miller can do.
I do, and I think you can't ignore like you can put fault on Miller, you can put fault on Lincoln Riley and the coaching staff, but the late addition of Jaden Maeva to that roster and whatever might have happened behind the scenes that might have I don't want to judge too
Yeah.
much. Got a chance to meet Miller at Big Ten Media Days before last season, going into the year for USC. I thought he was super impressive. Like, loved his handle of the game, loved the way he talked about it. Had pretty high hopes. And look, he from that first game of the season against LSU, you were like, okay, we're on to something. Statistically, he didn't overpower you, but you could tell he had the goods,
Yeah.
like as they
Yeah.
say. And so when the issues are turnovers or maybe trying to force the issue, it is like you know me, sometimes I'm going to get back to vibes, sometimes I'm going to get back to the human element of all this. And I just wonder if the fact that you might have had Maeva kind of breathing down your neck, how quickly they like went to him and have just stuck with him from there. And the fact that USC didn't even bring in another quarterback to compete with Maeva going into this year. If you're Miller Moss, there might have been a little piece of you that's kind of like not feeling the support
Yeah.
necessarily. Hey, listen, and this happens, man. Kyle McCord at Syracuse last year was one of the most productive quarterbacks in the entire country. And he came from Ohio State. And he was saying in those early weeks of the season, it's great to have the full support of the coaching staff.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it doesn't mean that you're not going to be successful at your next place or that the wrong decision's being made. It's just kind of the life of a quarterback in college football. The way that Kyle McCord was able to just like really thrive in a new setting, I absolutely could see that kind of. I mean, I'm not going to predict Kyle McCord's stats because he led the country, like among the nation's leaders in yards and touchdowns. But I absolutely could see at least that kind of step forward from what had been kind of an up and down first full season as a starter.
Yeah, I think that's something that the college game, the players will start getting used to because obviously if they make it to the pros, that's every year
Sure. Yeah.
being
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
over recruit or recruited over and that kind of thing, bringing in free agents or what have you. And obviously I don't think they do a great job right now of compartmentalizing and just going about it. But I
It's weird.
mean,
It's like they're like 19, 20, 21 years
yeah,
old.
exactly. Exactly. Well, I wanted to kind of along, and I'm staying offensive here with U of L, but Jeff Brohm has been able to come in with basically one and done quarterbacks in his first 2 years. He's attempting it this third year. At this point with Jeff Brohm, do you just kind of is it just assumed that he's going to get it done with however shorter transition period he has with the new guy because he's just the offensive mind like that?
I mean, he had Purdue playing for a Big Ten title. Like he didn't have Purdue putting up the Joe Tiller stats, right? And he didn't have a Drew Brees out there. But in terms of team success, like I do assume that Jeff Brohm is going to put his quarterback in a position to succeed, that he is going to prepare them as well as any offensive minded head coach in the entire country. Certainly any that have their hands on the offense the way that Jeff Brohm does. Um, I mean, Jack Plummer played in an ACC championship game. And I don't mean to belittle the man. He already
Yeah.
gets like I live down here in the state of North Carolina. You watch a preseason Panthers game, everyone's like, "Oh God, I can't even. What are we even going to learn here?" I feel bad for him because he did. He was there for year one and he got the Cardinals to the ACC championship game, but he is not overwhelming with his physical tools. And I think that Tyler Shuck had another great season, ends up getting drafted, and I think that for Jeff Brohm, that is the assumption that you are going to get the absolute most out of the quarterback. And if you are a quarterback, he is going to set you up to succeed. And that's probably stuff that actually I can say almost certainly is stuff that extends beyond what he's calling on Saturday over the headset, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
for
that is
sure.
just all of the work that's happening in the film room, telling you why we're doing this, why we're calling it, so that you don't even have to think. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Like, that's good coaching when it comes to being able to really set your quarterback up for success.
I think at this point, Rom should make a Suge Knight-like video
Come to death row.
appealing to any quarterback transfers in the next few years. Well, looking at the bigger picture ACC race, is this basically, I think David Ubben was the one I was talking to from The Athletic who coined the phrase, is Clemson's revenge tour. Like, do you feel like it's going to be that level of Clemson above everybody else in the league?
It should be. I mean, that like I that defense last year was too talented to get pushed around and put and blown off the ball like they did when they played the best opponents. Um, we talked to the people from the NFL. They said there could be 6 first round draft picks on this Clemson team.
Hmm.
That is the most talented Clemson roster that we've had since 2020. So it should be. It should be like 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020 when they're just, yeah, they just roll out of bed, win the ACC, show up to the playoff, and then we'll see, right? I mean, yeah, you might get knocked off in the semifinals, but they won 2 titles. They played for it and lost in the championship game 2 other times. That the true revenge tour to me isn't as much about Clemson getting back to the top of the ACC because they did that in 22. They did that in 24. The real Clemson revenge tour is against the rest of the country.
Hmm.
It's like Dabo getting the last laugh because he was told that if he didn't evolve, Clemson was going to get lapped. And he said, I don't need no portal. That locker room is my transfer portal. And yeah, they had a couple bad recruiting classes
Yeah.
and they missed on quarterback. But this group were all guys they recruited out of high school. They've developed them. I mean, look, they got the transfer from Alabama on the defensive side, Ryan Helt, like a few other spot players that are from the transfer portal. I don't want to get community noted here in terms of with some big well actually energy, but for the most part, the guys that are going to be stars are guys that Clemson identified in high school, got on them early, because Dabo does that thing where like, we're not going to even have
Yeah.
you out to visit unless like we know you are on board. So they established a relationship. They evaluated them. They recruited them. They signed them. They developed them. If Clemson, here's the way I'm putting it. If Clemson makes the Final Four, the semifinals of the college
Mhm.
football playoff, then Dabo got the last laugh because he did what people said you are not going to be able to do in the modern transfer portal era, which is build a title contender by building it all out of high school. And a lot of programs, Florida State, have seen like the real playing with fire.
Yeah.
So I think that it is very much a yes. Clemson should be ahead of everybody else because that's what the talent level is. And you hope that bringing in Tom Allen as your new defensive coordinator, another year of progression for Cade Klubnik, they won't go 0-3 against the SEC, but we get to see it like right at the beginning, week 1, Saturday night. So excited about
Absolutely
that.
love that. Yeah, absolutely love that. I'm still skeptical, even if they do get back to at least the semifinals, just because I feel like you can build it and compete in a year, but what happens when these guys leave, and then what's going to happen? How are they going to restock for next year? Like that's what I think it's the every year being at this level, which for a while for their run, they were at this level every year, it seemed like, but we shall see how that plays out. I want to move on now to the University of Kentucky, where
Oh
it's
yeah, I mean a lot of spending for Mark Pope. It's been really good on that front.
yeah, it's definitely a different narrative going on in Lexington
Uh-huh.
right now, where I feel like they are fighting, kind of coming off of a losing season last year, wondering if Mark Stoops is going to still be the man long term. Is this? Do you think Mark Stoops will survive this season at UK?
For starters, I do not think it will be a successful season. Like my thought is,
It's a crazy schedule, first and
yeah,
foremost.
yeah. I mean, my thought is we're staring at another. what, 4-8 season, second year in a row. I don't think they're a bowl team. Um, the roster doesn't impress me. And we got, did you know Joe Burrow won the Heisman when Zach Calzada was a freshman?
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Justin Herbert was still at Oregon when Zach
That's
Calzada was a freshman.
that's crazy.
So I mean, I look at the roster and it does, even though there's a ton of new faces, it is not a restocked roster that has me thinking, oh yeah, they are going to be ready to jump up and close the gap. And look, did Kentucky win or did Ole Miss lose? Like there's a little bit of you Kentucky fan points to me and says we beat Ole Miss last year. We showed we can hang with anybody in the SEC, and I would push back on it because I think that this is a team that if you throw them against their schedule 1,000 times, I think that more than 50% of the time they end up failing to make a bowl. And so then it is, what does it mean? Because you said, does Mark Stoops survive? That's an institutional question at that point. I'm telling you, I think that Kentucky is a 4-8, 5-7 type team this year based on the roster and the schedule. Does he survive? Do you want to pay the tens of millions of dollars to move on from him right away? You might not. You might say, okay, well, this is what life was before he got to that level of consistency. And maybe he goes into next year like truly with some pressure, but you've got a little bit of a runway. Do you want, as Kentucky, to get into this coaching carousel? That might also be a read the room situation, right? Because if it's true bloodbath and we're talking Florida, Oklahoma, LSU, like if we're dealing with Arkansas, like if you've got a lot of SEC jobs that are starting to open up, where's Kentucky fall in that landscape? Now, if Billy Napier has an awesome year, and if Brent Venables hit with John Mateer, and all of a sudden and Brian Kelly makes the college football playoff, maybe Kentucky does say, okay, now we have a chance at somebody who's a little bit higher up on the food chain in terms of the coaching carousel. So does Mark Stoops survive? I think that is up to the university and what it wants to define as its standards, because I do not see Kentucky making a bowl this year.
Yeah, I think kind of hand in hand with does he survive is the fact that John Summerall is right there. He is peaking. He is drawing the interest of other. I mean, I really think if
He
there's no
had coach.
interference at Carolina, then if the board of trustees isn't swooping in doing their own search, then I think Bubba Cunningham wanted John Summerall to be
Hey,
there.
do you miss that? Did you did you speak to your audience at all about like the interesting political dynamics that might have been at play during all that?
I have stayed away.
Because that's the
I,
other thing is
I enjoy watching from the outside,
yeah,
not being in that fray.
yeah.
But yeah, those politics obviously uh can get into searches and certainly could factor into UK's decision at the end of this year.
I don't know if this is true or not, and I apologize for just throwing this like off the wall non sequitur, but I heard recently that the rumor or the legend was the first time Dick Bador met Butch Davis was at the press conference. Did you ever hear that?
I did hear that too.
Okay, okay. But anyway, did you see John Summerall was like posting photos with Coach Brooks?
Oh, I didn't. I didn't
Oh,
see
yeah,
that.
you want to talk about stoking the Kentucky flame? He was like arm in arm right here, BBN, oh, here with one of the best.
It's funny though. He is like true blue. Like he is UK to his core. That's why I feel like if if Stoops stumbles, then it's almost like you gotta get him because he's gonna be gone, and then you're gonna look back like we could have had our coach. I kind of look at it like Indiana basketball. They gave Mike Woodson another year to be the head coach when Dusty May, who is IU to his core,
Yeah.
was right there off of a Final Four at Florida Atlantic, and they could have just nudge Woodson out the door, had May come in, and obviously we saw they waited. He takes the Michigan job. He's doing great things there, and we'll see what happens now that they've parted with Woodson. But I think it's a similar situation for UK. So we'll we will see. There's always something going on in the state of Kentucky. I promise you that in terms of sports news. So one other thing I wanted to get you, I know obviously you don't feel like UK is going to be in the SEC race, but I wanted to get your thoughts on just who you feel like comes out of the SEC as a champion this year.
My pick is Alabama.
Okay.
I think the Crimson Tide are going to get back to having like the bold my bold prediction is and I don't mean to do air quotes like I'm actually saying it, but we're always asked like, hey Chip, bold prediction, hey Chip, give me something. So I've said that my bold prediction is that Alabama's going to have a top 5 scoring defense, and while they haven't fallen off defensively, it's been back until like Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, like when they had those guys out there that they were like really top of the country. I just look at their team and they are old and they are big, and big bodies still matter in college football.
Yeah.
24/7 Sports released its total team composite this week. Alabama's number 1. I think that team really underachieved last year, but the team is mostly still intact. They're
Mm.
huge along the lines of scrimmage. And the real secret sauce here to me is the return of Ryan Grubb as offensive coordinator. Ryan Grubb was Kalen DeBoer's offensive coordinator at Washington and Fresno State, kind of been his guy,
Yeah.
but he took a job with the Seahawks so he could stay in Seattle. I mean, obviously it's an NFL job, but he took a job with the Seahawks so he could stay in Seattle. He's back. Everyone's singing his praises, but I had heard a really cool take from a player named Thaddeus Dixon, who plays cornerback from North Carolina, but was at Washington. So like he came over with Steve Belichick and a few Kamori House, a few other Washington players. But Thaddeus Dixon was talking about his first year at Washington was the Michael Penix, Roma Dunze, Jalen Polk, like that team. And he was asked at ACC Media Day about going up against that offense, and he was real fast to mention. And the way Coach Grubb schemes it up, like, oh my gosh, it's so hard. I just think that we've got a little bit extra added offensively where Ty Simpson doesn't need to be a superstar. You just need to deliver the ball on time and let Ryan Williams go make a play.
Yeah.
It's just going to be an Alabama team that I think is got far less questions than Georgia, which is really, really young. The Bulldogs are talented, but super young. And then Texas, which is not kind of an in between in terms of being proven and unproven, but obviously breaking in a new quarterback as well with Arch Manning.
Yeah, that's going to be a show to watch Texas this season. I will let you go on this last thing. You kind of mentioned bold predictions, and I was thinking about this with the ACC. Any chance the ACC gets 3 teams into the
No,
college football?
no, no, no way.
Oh, I mean, I could see a path. You can't see a path for that?
I think that I think the SEC is about to come roaring back. I think the SEC
Okay.
gets 5.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, that top tier is good.
Yeah.
I think that. Hey, here's a fun little storyline. So, um, you got this. This is almost goes back to the Texas thing. So we've got Arch Manning at Texas. We got Ty Simpson at Alabama. We got Gunnar Stockton at Georgia. You got Austin Simmons at Ole Miss. You've got let's see who else are like the top starting quarterbacks. Let me see. All right. Austin. Oh, Garrett Nussmeier at LSU. Marcel Reed at Texas A&M. DJ Lagway at Florida. You know what the common thread here is? All homegrown talent, recruited out of high school, signed with that team, waited your turn, or developed, and now it's time to go. The SEC to me was lacking at the quarterback position last year, and it was one of the reasons why they were struggling. And I think that if they have a big resurgence, it'll be because all of the big hitters in the conference have quarterbacks that they signed the old fashioned way, which I think is a unique thing here in 2025.
It definitely is, especially around these parts where both U of L and UK are going the the one and done quarterback route as opposed to signing and
I mean,
developing.
Arch Manning has spent 30 months on campus. It was 2.5 years ago that he
Yeah.
lost his ID. Remember when he lost his ID as an early enrollee
National
freshman?
panic, yeah.
Yeah, on like day one of class or whatever. I mean, this is like just you get there and I'm I am Arch Manning is such like a I mean let's put this up for the SEO. Arch Manning, Arch Manning, Arch Manning, Arch Manning, fill out the transcript. But like he's an old school story, in a very new school world in terms of him being a star, but now it's time for him to go and get it. It'll be fun to see. So yeah, I could see Alabama, Georgia, and Texas being shoe-ins, and matching last year's three. And then I think the next two best teams out of that group, whether it is an LSU, an Ole Miss, a Texas A&M, Tennessee, somebody else that might join them. I think yeah, the SEC ends up definitely getting four, possibly getting five into the college football playoff. I I don't think the Big 12 gets two, though it's not crazy. And I've got the ACC in my official prediction getting both Clemson and Miami in. So I've got them at two, but I don't think they get three.
Gotcha, gotcha. Well, you can catch him on the Cover Three podcast. How many days a week do y'all post on YouTube and through all the podcast channels?
We are 5 days a week now.
5 days a week.
Um, but the Tuesday show is first live on CBS Sports Network. And then we post the
Okay.
CBS Sports Network show to YouTube and to the channel. So it's 11 a.m. on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, youtube.com/cover3. We are noon Eastern time on CBS Sports Network. Then the show goes to podcast and YouTube. And then, CL, it's 11:30 p.m. Eastern time. You come join us live at youtube.com/cover3 for Saturday night instant reaction shows as best as we can do in our bleary eyed state, recapping everything we've watched from 12 hours of football. So, yeah, it is every day of the week. Fridays, we're normally doing maybe some travel to get somewhere, other stuff. And Sundays, we'll probably end up doing shows then once coaches start getting fired. But right
Yeah.
now, 5 days a week.
That is truly the Sickos podcast on those late Saturday nights. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Chip. Please check out Cover Three podcast. You will not regret it if you're a college football fan, and we will catch up to you later on in the season.
Sounds good. Y'all be well.
And now it's time for pickup lines, where we talk about spreads in college football and I make my predictions. Let's jump right into it. Louisville is a 38.5 point favorite against Eastern Kentucky. I am taking the Cards at home. I think their offense is going to be spectacular this season, and I just think they're going to overwhelm EKU in the season opener to cover that 38.5. You have Kentucky is now a 9.5 point favorite over Toledo. As of the taping, it's already gone up 2 points. I think it opened at 7.5. I am with the Cats on this one. A lot of people are picking this as a possible upset spot, and Toledo will be formidable in the MAC, but I just think Kentucky has heard all season about how bad they were last season and how they might get upset by a MAC team and things of this nature. And I think they're going to come out with a chip on their shoulder and prove otherwise. The big one, the big game this opening weekend is Texas at Ohio State. Ohio State is a 2.5 point favorite. I am of the belief that Texas isn't there yet. I know they're preseason number one. I know Arch Manning's getting a lot of hype, but I also feel like the Buckeyes at home are going to hold serve and they are going to come out with the victory in this marquee matchup. And certainly I wish we had a lot more of those marquee matchups in college football as opposed to playing some cupcakes, but we'll get into that. Maybe that's a time for CL sounds off at a later date. We also have the matchup of Alabama at Florida State. Florida State is a 13.5 point home underdog. I usually love going with home underdogs, but in this case, as Chip Patterson already said in the interview earlier, Alabama's going to be tough. Alabama's going to be back to kind of where we're used to seeing Alabama. So give me the Tide, and I will give you the points in that one. And lastly, I think LSU and Clemson is going to be the other great game in the opening weekend. Clemson is a 3.5 point favorite in a battle to determine who is the real Death Valley. And I'm going to say it's Clemson. I will give the points in that game, take the Clemson, the orange clad Tigers over the ones in purple and gold. So that will do it for another episode of the CL Brown Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please click on those follow buttons to subscribe to the podcast. And please leave 5-star reviews because we need more love in this world. If not, you can always check my columns online at courier-journal.com. And I just thank you once again for tuning in. You can sit back, relax, and check out another episode of the podcast that will drop next Wednesday.